Right, here we are in the engine bay. Let me try and get in position for you. Right, there's the two. I'm on one of the top bolts there with a 17mm socket. As I say, there's the one of the top bolts, and the other top bolt is literally right next to it. You can't see it, it's under them two hoses there. Now, to get to it, what I've had to do is, I'm approaching it from the engine bay obviously, and as you can see I've got the socket on there, and I've also got, to get a proper bit of leverage, I've got a wrench just stuck over the handle with a hole on the end of the wrench, just so that I can get the push down to undo that. So that's what I'm going to basically do now. So I'm going to try and undo that nut. Oh fucking hell, that's tight. These are very, very tight, these nuts. Very, very tight. Just make sure it's on there. Oh. Move it around. Just get it on there. That's got the nut. It's still too tight for me to turn. Fucking hell. You've got to get this in exactly the right place. You have that ratchet too far out and you can't get it on there. There we go. Right, she's broke. So I've undone both of the nuts now by using that technique. I'm just loosening them off now. That one's loose, and the one the other side is also loose. I don't know whether you can approach it from the bottom, but this is just the way that I've done it. Those are the only two top bolts that attach the RD unit to the gearbox, and that's the way that I've done it. Basically using the socket to actually get on the nut, and then using that as a lever to give me access to get the leverage from the top of the bonnet area. So I've done that with the two top bolts on the IRD unit connection to the gearbox. I also used the same technique when I was undoing the bracket that holds the 5 bolts around the IRD unit from the other end, because them bolts were very, very tight in there as well. So again, I used from underneath the car, I use the same technique to get some leverage to undo them. The bottom bolts, I don't think you can see them from here, they're literally just behind the exhaust there. There's one of them there, you can just see the top of one of them there. Well, one of these was actually out, missing, and the bottom one, the one at the back, which I don't think you can see from this side, was actually hand loose. Now that might be the reason why you have to remove the exhaust, and the reason why you might have to move the exhaust is that the IRD box has to drop down. I'm not sure. I was thinking it comes out of this way. I'm not too sure yet, but I'll let you know. There might be a situation here where I have to undo this exhaust flange here right the way to the front exhaust flange, which is halfway up the front of the engine, in which case these bolts are all rusted in. I'd probably have to grind them off, and possibly the other ones, and put new bolts in. That's if I need to take that off. So I'm just going to put a axle stand, which I've got in the middle of the car, under the IRD box. As you can see, I need a block of wood in there, and I'm going to just continue undoing them top bolts by hand, and hopefully this, once I've disconnected the little breather pipe which is at the top there, on top of the IRD unit. Where is it? It should be on the top here somewhere. Is it in there? Just stick your hand in the bonnet for a minute, Gary. That's it, that bit further down, there's a little pipe down underneath them.
Oh, this one?
Yeah. Now that pipe there, what you can see, that is a little breather pipe which has got to pull off at the top of the IRD unit as well, so that's got to be done as well. So I'm now going to try and undo them top bolts, as I said to you, by hand, over the top there, separate from the gearbox and hopefully pull this out. Right, here's the situation so far. What we had is someone at the top undoing the two bolts at the top. I'm landing underneath the front of the car at the moment, as you can see. Someone was at the top, they stuck a crowbar in between the IRD unit and the gearbox because there's a little gap there, and prised. Now all I'd done, I did have an axle stand here in the middle, as you know, under the IRD unit, but I basically lifted here on the IRD unit while the person on the top was jiggling it, and I've lifted it. I lifted the IRD unit to this position what we're at now. As you can see, it's there's the shaft that comes out of the gearbox, and I'm not too sure whether or not it goes out through the back through there. I know it would be a lot very handy if the exhaust wasn't on here, because it would have just come straight out here, but I'm going to try and just manoeuvring it now. It's quite weighty, it's nearly 30 kilograms, so I'm under here on my own, and I'm just going to try and manoeuvre it now. It's actually out, the IRD unit is actually out now, and I'm going to try and get it out this hole here. And if I can't, I'll try and push it through that way, and failing that, it means the exhaust does have to come off like we said. Right, as you can see, we've got it out, and we got it out through this gap here. Now it took two of us. We basically manoeuvred it, pulled it back up into this gap here until the shaft came through this hole here. I'll focus. Through this hole here. We haven't taken the exhaust off, if you can see, and then by lifting someone at the top, lifting the back of the unit up, I was able underneath here to take hold of and guide it through this hole in between the subframe and the exhaust. So I haven't had to take the exhaust off, which was going to prove a bit of a problem anyway, because they was all rusted into the manifold. So we just had one last perseverance chance, and as you can see there, we've actually got the IRD unit out. The weight isn't too bad. It's supposed to be about 30 kilograms, just under 30 kilograms. I quite comfortably on my own manoeuvred it with the top person just guiding the back up high enough for me to get it through that hole. So it just shows you that you can do it on your own, but I wouldn't obviously tell you this is what you've got to be doing. These are just my experiences and what I've come across, so just beware. I did get it out of this hole there. Well, there she is. That's the way it comes out. That's the way the prop shaft fits, obviously directly onto it. Now you can see better the location of the top bolts. Those are the two I approached from the engine bay, as you know, with the lever. The bottom two, which you can't see, is underneath. But there's a crack there, look, you can see that. You see that crack there? I don't know what that's all about. But I've actually got a receipt with this Freelander that it's had a brand new IRD unit in its past. That to me, I don't know how long ago it was, but that doesn't look like a brand new unit to me, so I've got a receipt for that. So, and bearing in mind, these two top bolts were in very, very tight. The bottom two, this one this side, which you can see there, that wasn't in, that was missing, and the one the other side was hand tight. The 5 bolts around here attached to that bracket, I had to use that lever technique. So that is it. I'm just awaiting the replacement IRD unit to come, and that would be where that blanking plate cover gives that blanking plate cover go. Again, if I was converting this to a 2-wheel drive, I wouldn't be taking this out obviously, but I would have removed the prop the way I did, and that blanking plate would basically go on there, or should go on there. Is that the right way? Can it only go on one way? Not sure. That blanking plate would go on there. It only goes on one way, by the way, with a smear of gasket seal all the way around there, and you'd be putting that on in the actual car. You wouldn't obviously take it out to do that. so that can actually be done in the car, and that turns your car into a two-wheel drive. So there you go, just to let you see what we've got there. We've got a seal around there. On the new one we'll have a new seal on there obviously, which pushes back into the gearbox, and that is where the right hand drive shaft goes in, and that is your top breather hose, which you've got to pull off. Those are the two hoses from your cooling system, which keep the unit the same temperature as the rest of the engine. And basically that's it. So that is going to be sent back for refurbishment for an exchange cost. I think you get £50 back on an RD unit, and I will be putting the whole unit back in reverse to what you've just seen there. So that's the situation. I hope this helps you, gives you some sort of understanding. I didn't take the down manifold off, as you know. I didn't take the drive shaft nut off and undo that big 280 foot-pounds nut. So whether or not you do it the same way, or whether or not, it is easier with two people, especially when you're manoeuvring it out of the hole I've just got it out of. So it is a two-handed job on certain parts, but there you go. All that at the back of the car is now redundant, and I'm just waiting for the new one to come in. Thanks very much.